He has like social cues. He has like a personal space problem.
Okay. How do you like that? So what's yours? I'm curious. I'm like, recently at this quarter, I'm like,
Alright, everybody.
yeah, I think it's like
seats.
a good balance.
It is time to return. Hey, before we get into it tonight, I want to say something. I mentioned it earlier, but Shawin just passed her quals, which means that she is now not kicked out of the program and is able to continue her studies towards her PhD. So congratulations. That was a very momentous and stressful test. Way to go. We're proud of you. The Bible says rejoice with those who rejoice. If we ever find out something good in your life, we'll celebrate that. I had something else I was going to say. It was very specific. Oh, last night, throw up this picture I got. Last night, this room was packed. People turned out to hear Dr. Praveen Satyapathi. I wanted to thank you so much for inviting your friends. And some of you came last night and also came tonight. Very excited about that. I think it's the highest attendance we've ever had on like a non-kickoff week. And so thank you so much. And also be encouraged. It means that when you invite your friends, a significant number of them are open to and interested in spiritual things and are available on at least a Tuesday night, presumably a Wednesday night as well. So be bold in your invitation. But thank you so much. It was really cool. If you missed it, we have it online. You can find a link on our website and also on our Facebook page to stream it. So, we're continuing our journey through the Gospel of John. We've just finished studying a very lengthy sermon by Jesus called the Upper Room Discourse, where for chapter after chapter he talked about these amazing concepts. I'm the vine, you're the branches, abide in me, have unity with one another. As I wash your feet, you must wash one another. It's this amazing set of teachings, but it was a lot. And now we're returning to the narrative flow of the Gospel of John. We're at the very end now. We're going to end the Gospel of John even as we end this quarter. And so tonight, we're going to pick up right after Jesus finishes his last public sermon. But in order to sort of keep up with what's happening, we're going to have to jump back a few chapters to the very beginning of this conversation that he's had with his disciples. So if you have a Bible, turn to John 13, verse 36. If not, the verses should be up on the screen behind me. So Jesus is talking to his disciples, and he says, I'm going away. So Simon Peter says, Lord, where are you going? Jesus replied, where I'm going, you cannot follow now, but you will follow later. Peter asked, Lord, why can't I follow you now? I will lay down my life for you. Then Jesus answered, will you really lay down your life for me? Very truly I tell you, before the rooster crows, in other words, before the sun rises, you will disown me 3 times. Less than 12 hours from now, Peter, you will have denied that you know me 3 times. You're going to die for me? Now, Peter is incredulous. I mean, absolutely disbelieving. Because he, at this moment in his heart, is convinced that he is willing to die for Jesus. Maybe you've been there. Maybe you've been at a retreat. And just everything was so clear in that moment. You're like, yes, Lord, wherever you want me to go, whatever you want me to do, I will do it. Or you are on a mission trip. And just in the act of serving, perhaps an orphan somewhere, or you're rebuilding a wall for a church, you're doing something, and it's just like it all came together. You're like, yes, God, whatever, no matter what. Or go back, if you're a follower of Jesus, to the time that you first gave your heart to the Lord, the time you became a Christian. And you said, this is what it means to become a Christian. To say, God, about everything. Lord, about my family, about my future, about my friendships, about my own life, I give you control. You are Lord. I will die before I renounce you. And that's where Peter was at. Now, we're going to fast forward. Jesus gives us a very long sermon. And if you don't know the story of the crucifixion and resurrection of Jesus, what happens next is that one of his disciples betrays him, sells him out. And soldiers, Roman soldiers, along with some Jewish officials, come to arrest Jesus. At that moment, Peter isn't having any of it. And so we pick it up in John chapter 18, verse 10. So skip forward about 5 chapters. Then Simon Peter, he's seeing this about to happen, Jesus being arrested, who had a sword, drew it, and struck the high priest's servant, cutting off his right ear. The servant's name was Malchus. Jesus commanded Peter, "Put your sword away! Shall I not drink the cup the Father has given me?" Then the detachment of soldiers, with its commander and the Jewish officials, arrested Jesus. They bound him and brought him first to Annas, who was the father-in-law of Caiaphas, the high priest there. Caiaphas was the one who had advised the Jewish leaders that it would be good if one man died for the people. David, that might actually be from that buzz might be from the wire going into the speakers over there. Or maybe Stephen fixed it. So I want you to put yourself in Peter's shoes. Peter is committed to Jesus. He's in love with this man who has changed his life. And he is able, he's got a sword inside. He sees people come with swords to arrest Jesus, so he acts. I mean, he's just professed, "I will die before I abandon you, before I betray you, before I will give my life on your behalf, Jesus." And so he acts. And he expects applause. But Jesus rebukes him. Jesus says, "Peter, you haven't been listening. What is happening tonight is not about you. It's not about how you feel. It's not about your comfort zone. It's about the will of God." I don't know about you, but one of my greatest temptations in my walk with God is to make it about me. To make everything center around me and my feelings and my perspective, and for me to become the hero of the story that I'm in. What does that look like? For me, in my role as a pastor here at Stanford, one thing it looks like, I meet a freshman. And honestly, my temptation is to be more concerned they get involved with Cal than if they find the community that God needs them to be in to flourish. It becomes about me and about my needs rather than about serving them and serving the kingdom. It looks like this in my life. If I sin, and I just want to repent privately and quietly and just sort of me and Jesus work it out, instead of confessing and allowing God to achieve his purpose in my life, truly mortifying sin and taking me on a journey where I receive the grace that comes from humility. Sometimes I'm talking to someone who's not a Christian, and I want to start scoring rhetorical points, because I can get good with words, and I've had way more arguments about this than any of you have. I'm literally twice the age of some of you in this room, and I've been talking about God since before I was your age. And so very rarely does a Stanford student say anything I've never heard before. And so I want to, and the thing is, if I have a great fight with a student, it makes a great sermon illustration later. It really does. You guys get excited. But that's not serving in love. It's not actually achieving God's purposes in their lives. It's making me feel good. And that's sort of where Peter's at. He's not listening when God says, "This is my purpose for this world. This is what I need from you." Instead, he's like, my inner emotional state, can I handle this? He just attacks. And he goes on, because while the beloved disciple in the Gospel of John is always the one quick to understand, Peter is always the one who is quick to take action. And one thing I learned from Peter's example is that as long as you care overly much about how others regard you, you're going to struggle to receive God's best in your life. And if you care overly much about how you regard yourself, you are going to struggle to receive God's best in your life. What do I mean? Paul illustrates in 1 Corinthians 4, 3, and 5. He says this: "I care very little if I'm judged by you or by any human court. Indeed, I do not even judge myself. My conscience is clear. That does not make me innocent. It is the Lord who judges me. Therefore, judge nothing before the appointed time. Wait until the Lord comes. He will bring to light what is hidden in darkness and will expose the motives of the heart. At that time, each will receive their praise from God." What does that mean? It's confusing. In our authenticity-soaked culture, in our culture that is so reverent toward anything that seems to be spontaneous, the more spontaneous it is, the more real it is, and that's just not biblical maturity. That at times you will want to do something, and your heart will tell you it's right, and your spirit's supposed to say to your heart, "Shut up and sit down! You lie!" What I need to do is be obedient to what I know is true, because truth runs deeper than my emotional state. And just because I feel the need to be vindicated in this way, either in my own self-conception or in the eyes of others around me, doesn't mean it's automatically the right thing to do. Doesn't mean it's the wrong thing to do either. It means that's orthogonal to the proper question. The proper question is, what is God's will in this situation? Peter doesn't realize that in the story. He needs to think of himself a certain way, as the fierce defender of Jesus. And Jesus rebukes him. What happens next? Peter's undaunted. Even though Jesus has been arrested, and presumably he's put his sword down by now, Simon Peter and another disciple were following Jesus. Because this disciple was known to the high priest, he went with Jesus into the high priest's court. But Peter had to wait outside at the door. The other disciple, who was known to the high priest, came back, spoke to the servant girl on duty there, and brought Peter in. You aren't one of this man's disciples too, are you? She asked Peter. He replied, I'm not. Now, before we get too harsh on Peter, I want you to put yourself into his mind and try to understand. So first, Jesus is arrested. As far as we know, 2 disciples followed. Everyone else went and hid him. The beloved disciple, John, and then Peter, they follow along. Now, John is just known. He's sort of moving in the circle somehow, so he just walks on in. And it's like, it's like that scene in the movie where like the hot girl goes into the club and her guy's like stuck outside because he doesn't qualify. It's like, Peter's like, whoa, what about it? And so John's come back, and it turns out Peter knows a guy who knows a guy. And he's able to get in. But he's already feeling like an outsider. He doesn't belong there. And so his scheme is clearly, he wants to somehow bust Jesus free. He's like envisioning this scenario where he's going to like swoop in like Robin Hood or something and just move and pull a ninja move and get Jesus out of there. And he runs into his first obstacle. Now I want you to bear in mind, Peter has gone to town against Roman soldiers. Now, that may not mean much to us today, but back in that day, Roman soldiers were the top dogs. Rome had defeated everyone they went to battle with. And so when Roman soldiers come across Jesus and Peter grabs his sword, he's like, ah! He's showing serious courage. But now he gets there, and this girl backs him down. So you're not one of his disciples, are you? No. So is it likely that he's actually afraid of her at that moment? I don't think so. I don't know if Peter thinks what he's doing here is denying Jesus. I think what he thinks is, I gotta come to church. I gotta work my way into the system. I gotta look like I'm here like everyone else. To sort of see how this thing goes down, but I'm not really with them, And that way they won't pay too much attention to me, and then I can, boom, get Jesus out. I mean, to me, that is by far the most plausible explanation for Peter's behavior right here. It starts with a rationalization. He was like a new professor, not telling his colleagues that he's a Christian until he gets tenure. Because he wants to sort of keep it until he can use it. Or it's like you, when you meet someone on campus and you sort of deliberately sort of downplay the Christian angle a little bit until they get to know you better because you're afraid otherwise the first one to be, oh, you're one of those Christians. And Peter's just thinking this out and sort of gaming it through. And it makes so much sense to him. And yet, it's classified by Jesus prophetically as a denial. You're going to deny me. That you're waiting for the right moment, but now is the right moment. That you think you're being shrewd, but you're actually rationalizing. This means whereby you're going to be accepted and included and treated in a way that matters so much to you. Story moves on, verse 18. It was cold, and the servants and officials stood around a fire they had made to keep warm. Peter was also standing with them, warming himself. So Peter's there. Jesus, the events of Jesus' trial and abuse by the guards, they're unfolding just a little bit away. And Peter still, he's thinking, he's working it through, he's standing by the fire, warming it up. And people are talking. They're around the fire. What do around the fire? They just chat, they talk, they share jokes. What are they talking about? Probably what's happening right there. Because it's interesting. Did you hear? That famous rabbi, that's him. He's been arrested. What did he do? I don't know. Da, 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 da. And like, well, he did this, but what? And Peter's standing there, and I'm assuming that what he's doing is not talking much, because it becomes clear later that people are still trying to get a read on him and how he fits in. So he's sitting there, he's thinking, he's listening, and he's scheming. Let's give him down a few verses. Meanwhile, Simon Peter was still standing there warming himself. So they asked him, "You're one of his disciples too, are you?" He denied it, saying, "I am not." Now, it's been several hours by this point. We know because this whole story goes from the time Jesus is arrested until the time that the morning comes. This is probably midway through the story, so it's 2 a.m., 3 a.m., something like that. He's tired, he's cold, and the way he thought things were going to go are not the way things are going. You know, Jesus isn't like sort of tied up in the corner over there to celebrate, woohoo, we got that troublesome rabbi. But no, he's the center of attention. There's guards around him. The people in charge are staring at Jesus all the time. He's like, I can't do anything, what do I do? People are talking, and people are talking about Jesus, and Peter's trying to figure out, I don't know for sure, I wasn't there, but I just speculate based on what I know of his personality, and what I know of human nature, and what I know of myself. He's probably trying to make vaguely positive but non-committal statements about Jesus. You ever been in that situation? Like you're there, you're in the dorm, they're in the lounge, you were saying things about Christianity or about Jesus or about the Bible, and you don't really want to out yourself right then. You don't have the emotional, or there's a Facebook war going on. One of your friends posted a thing, bam, it just explodes, like all your atheists, like Richard Dawkins' nephew comes out of nowhere, and you're like, man, if I want to say anything, I'll just like the comments that I agree with. I'm not getting involved in this, and then I'll just say something like, I won't actually make an argument, but I'll point out, well, actually, there's this research over here, and just point to a link, whatever, I just try to get out of it. I'm not going to really tip my hand, because I don't want to do that, but, I'm not going to deny him, but, I mean, this isn't my call right now, this isn't my thing. This isn't the burden I have from the Lord. And you try to avoid using these sin structures. You try to avoid using these sin structures that force you to say we or they. You're afraid, all of a sudden you become a grammatical genius. And so Peter's doing all that. And he's asked point blank, so he hasn't outed himself. They're like, are you one of the disciples? Notice what I asked him. They make it so easy for him to refuse. The presupposition is he's not. Just like so often here at Stanford. I mean, you're not one of those guys, are you? No. It's so easy to say no. All you have to do is sort of shake your head. No. Okay, yeah, I thought you belonged. I thought you fit in. I thought you were one of us. Verse 26. One of the high priest's servants, a relative of the man whose ear Peter had cut off, challenged him. Didn't I see you with him in the garden? And again, this thing, you cut off my cousin's ear. I'm pretty sure I remember you. Again, Peter denied him. And at that moment, a rooster began to crow. 3 times. He denied that he knew Jesus. Denied he was with Jesus. Denied he was associated with the followers of Jesus. And then the rooster crows. The morning has come. Assuming Jesus got arrested around 10 p.m., it took him less than 8 hours to disown Jesus 3 times. What are some lessons here? Because I've been where Peter's at in terms of like, yes, I will never betray you, Jesus. I will do this. I'll be strong to the end. I will be 90. I'll be witnessing to the doctors on my deathbed. And then I'm going to get out of my deathbed because you're going to heal me. I'll live to 120. That's what's going to happen, and I will die peacefully in my sleep. With a smile on my face singing him. That's the way it's going to go down. Because I know. Or if they come to burn me, I will go to the flames gladly. I'll just do anything. Here's a few observations. Because maybe you've been this. Because what did Peter do? He overpromised. I will die for you, and then he underdelivered. Jesus? He's the rabbi, right? I've heard of him. Tell me what you think about Jesus. I'll be in a moment. Lord, I will never do this sin again, ever. I'm free in Jesus' name. Overpromise. Then I live. And 2 weeks later, I underdeliver. God, I'm going to read the Bible word for word, not skip a verse, every day for the next 10 years. I will read 5 chapters a day. Overpromise. Underdeliver. Lord, I will read it in Greek. Underdeliver. I don't know about you, that is a big recurring pattern in my Christian life. I get so hyped up, I overpromise. Then I underdeliver. What were the factors that led to Peter underdelivering? A few come to mind. First, that Peter just flat promised beyond his ability, like he overestimated himself. That's part of it. There's some other things, though, that are pretty understandable. This happened late at night. Peter's tired. He's very tired. I've learned in my walk with the Lord that when I am tired, I make really bad choices. Rarely do... So let me give you an example from college life. As a campus pastor, I've talked to a ridiculous number of couples who've come to me to talk about challenges they've had in their relationship. Very rarely do I talk about something that happened at noon. Very often at 2 a.m., maybe they had a huge fight and just things are, or they started making out and they went way further than they thought it was going to go. But whatever it was, in some way, their IQ just decreased by about 50 points the longer they got past midnight. And so Peter here, he's tired. I think a big part of Peter's failure to deliver is that he was just tired, and he failed to recognize how much his physical experience affected his spiritual experience. If you're struggling in your walk with the Lord, get more sleep, eat right, and exercise. Very often in the Bible, we see that the practical mixed with the supernatural. For example, Jesus raises a younger life. What does he say? Give her something to eat. Right away, feed that. My daughter, I can tell instantly whether she's eaten. Because sometimes she will just go to school, she'll stop talking to her friends, she won't eat her lunch. I'll check her lunchbox, I know. But she comes home and life is, homework due, here Dana, have a snack. And then it's just like those Snickers commercials. She transforms in a moment. It's easy to see with an 11-year-old. We mask it better, but we have the same reality. Sleep, eat, exercise, and the world will seem like a better place. Jesus will once again, you will recognize him for how loving and true and faithful he is. The Bible will once again stir your soul as you read it. If you will just make it a habit to take care of the physical, you will be amazed at its effect on the spiritual. Now, in each case in this, that Peter denied Jesus, it was, well, in two of the three cases, it was not just about denying Jesus. It was also about disavowing relationship with the disciples. Very often, I find young Christians in particular very ready to disavow the church. And I don't think you remember you are the church. You can't disown yourself. You might want to improve the church, and I think you should, we all should. But you are they. And very often, when we seek to distance ourselves from other believers, we don't realize how vulnerable we become spiritually. Satan, the Bible says, is like a roaring lion. You ever watch Discovery Channel? Or one of those like nature shows? What do the lions and the tigers and the hyenas feed on? Strays. Those who have separated themselves from the herd. When you're separated from the herd, you become vulnerable to attack. And I find that when people, I see this all the time with well-meaning Christians, who often don't know church history nearly as well as they think, apologize for things that the church has no business apologizing for in some cases. We're not saying that we've done things wrong, but some things you've been told the church has done wrong, you just flat out don't know what you're talking about. And either your professors didn't know either, or they lied to you. And I would be happy to talk to you at length about that. But regardless, you need to remember this. The church is the bride of Christ. And a good way to become my enemy is to badmouth my wife to my face. And I would just encourage you, be less open to distancing yourself from other believers. Instead, employ a hermeneutic of love, whereby you try to interpret their actions in the most favorable light possible. And if they've fallen short, you go to them and lead them to repentance. Don't go to the world and badmouth the church. That's just not the right way to do things. Third thing, I see Peter. He was surrounded with the wrong crowd that night. Now this happens all. I don't think Peter ran with the wrong crowd habitually. But we are all more vulnerable to peer pressure than we think. We stand around a fire with the opponents of Jesus when Jesus was on trial. It's the wrong time to be surrounded by the people bad-mouthing Jesus. And as a result, Peter, like all of us, wants to be liked. Who doesn't want to be loved and accepted and fit in? We all do. And Peter's he's human. He naturally wants to. I can't prove it, but I find it significant the first person that he denied Christ to was a girl. Honestly, I meet a lot of guys. And they want the ladies to like them. And so they soften all things a little bit. Ladies, I see what the guys, oh yeah. And you may be not as clear about where you stand on some issues as you ought to be. I can't prove it, but I suspect it, having known a lot of guys around Peter's age, from what I can tell from Scripture, watching them interact with ladies. The fourth thing that I notice happened to lead Peter to collapse is Peter was playing a mind game with himself. Did you notice there were two believers there? Peter and John. Now, John seemed to have no problem whatsoever. John did not deny Jesus. John was there. They knew he was a believer. Peter said, if they know I'm a believer, this will happen, that'll happen, this will happen. And John's like, yeah, I'm with Jesus. What's going on here? And John's sitting over there watching all this, presumably talking, no, you can't hit him. That's a violation of the law. And John's doing fine. Peter is hiding, scared by the fire, trying to imagine him as the hero of the story. Well, John's just over there being heroic. Because Peter, it has to happen a certain way for it to count in Peter's mind, and just, he has to love Jesus more than everyone else. So he's got to show he loves him. John's just going, I'm going to do something better than John, but that's just enough. That's the right thing right there. Just stand up and be open. Just answer questions honestly when they're asked of you. If Peter had just done that, this story would read so differently. Peter overpromised, underdelivered, denied Christ 3 times. On the third denial, don't know him. And it all comes back into Peter's mind. The other Gospels tell us he went away at that moment and wept bitterly. Because what he thought was clever strategy turned out to be a rationalization for cowardice and the desire for human approval, and him needing things to go a certain way. How do you recover from that? Whenever you find you've overpromised to God and underdelivered, what do you do? I mean, it's clear from the text that Peter was tempted to just give up, throw it in. I mean, not only do I not love him more than everyone else, maybe I just don't love him at all. I mean, we see him later, he's gone back to fishing. The thing Jesus called him away from. You like fishing? Come with me. I'll teach you how to fish for people. Leave your boat. Leave your nets. Come with me. Afterwards, we find Peter back, fishing. It's what he knew. Jesus wasn't around anymore. Jesus come back to life, apparently. Rumors start to float around. Peter encountered him. But somehow it didn't click with Peter that things could be okay. And so we pick up the story in John chapter 21. I'm going to skip a lot of the details here because we're going to come to them later on as we go through the Gospel of John. But Jesus is there on the shore. And all of a sudden, John says, it's the Lord. Beloved disciple, quick to understand God. Peter, quick to act. Peter jumps out of the boat, not runs across the water. That was a different story. Goes through the water, gets to Jesus, and then they have a reunion. John 21, verse 14. This was now the third time Jesus appeared to his disciples after he was raised from the dead. When they had finished eating, Jesus said to Simon Peter, Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these? These. What's these? Pronouns are tricky. They refer to other things. What's the logical reference of this pronoun? Some people think that Jesus is holding up fish. Peter, do you love me more than this food? I think that's a really implausible interpretation. Well, Jesus, I do love you, but I gotta say, fish chips are better. I mean, it's what? The clearest reference, and something that most scholars agree upon, is that Jesus is saying, Peter, here's the other disciples. Do you love me more than these? Do you love me more than John? Do you love me more than Matthew? Do you love me more? Why would Jesus say that? Because that's what Peter's claim was. All the time Peter's claim was, I'm the best! Jesus, I'm your number one guy! And Jesus is like, really? Do you still believe you love me more than anyone else? In other words, Peter, are you still judgmental and delusional and insecure? Yes, Lord, he said. You know that I love you. Jesus said, feed my lambs. Again, Jesus said, Simon, son of John, do you love me? He answered, yes, Lord. You know that I love you. Jesus said, take care of my sheep. The third time he said to him, Simon, son of John, do you love me? Peter was hurt because Jesus asked him the third time, do you love me? He said, Lord, you know all things. You know that I love you. Peter was hurt. Why was he hurt? Because 3 times Jesus asked him to confess his love. Now, why would Jesus do that? It's not hard. Because 3 times Peter had denied Jesus. Jesus was graciously giving Peter a chance to symbolically undo what he had done. You deny me 3 times? Confess me 3 times. But Peter didn't recognize it. See, Peter didn't see what Jesus was doing. This is how he interpreted what Jesus was doing. He's like, Jesus doesn't believe me. Lord, I love you. Do you love me? You know I love you. Peter, do you love me? Lord, you know everything. You know that I love you. Because Peter was hurt. He couldn't process what Jesus' purposes are. I've experienced in my life that when I feel guilty or insecure, I have a very hard time processing what God is trying to speak to me. What God's purposes are in a certain situation in my life. And Peter is right there. And I want you to catch this. Jesus was willing to hurt Peter's feelings in order to achieve his purposes in Peter's life. Peter's psychological comfort was not Jesus' highest value at that moment. And also, Jesus did not say, oh, you misunderstand. Work back here, deny me 3 times, remember? That was one night. Now in 5 minutes you got to affirm me 3 times. See how it all works out? Symmetrical, that's good. He leaves Peter to figure it out on his own later. Very rarely in my life does God explain to me what he's doing in my life while he's doing it. If that's my goal, my threshold for obedience, I've got to understand what God's up to, I'm going to be a very, very disobedient Christian. Because God's generally not interested in my immediate illumination or in my short-term psychological comfort. What he wants is what's best for me in the long run. And he knows better than me, and he's leading me on a journey. Jesus said, feed my sheep. Very truly I tell you, when you were younger, you dressed yourself and went where you wanted. But when you are old, you will stretch out your hands, and someone else will dress you and lead you to where you do not want to go. Jesus said this to indicate the kind of death by which Peter would glorify God. Then he said to him, follow me. Now, the Bible does not record Peter's death. The last New Testament document ends before his martyrdom. But church history tells us Peter went on to be crucified just like Jesus. And he requested to be crucified upside down because he was not worthy to die in the same manner as his Lord. He was led where he did not want to go and stretched out. He was even dressed by someone else for that occasion. I want you to catch this though. So Peter's promised, Lord, I will die for you. Jesus actually knew the whole time. Yeah, you will, but not the way you think. Not when you think. My plan is better than yours. And the thing I want you to catch is after all this, Peter not quite recognizing yet he's been restored. Not recognizing the extent of God's gracious love to him. Jesus' boundless forgiveness, and not just forgiveness. Forgiveness is wiping the past clean, but grace. Inserting positiveness. Inserting welcome. Inserting love. Inserting hope into the situation. He says to Peter, follow me. The first invitation. Let's go back to the beginning, Peter. Let's reboot this thing. Remember one day you were in your boat? You were fishing? Kind of like today. You're in your boat, fishing. Peter, follow me. Peter, you haven't blown it. I mean, you did, but you haven't blown it to where it's wrecked forever. You haven't undone my love for you. You're not capable of undoing my love for you. You did not choose me, I chose you, and I'm not done with you yet, Peter. Feed my sheep, follow me. Peter turned and saw that the disciple whom Jesus loved was following. This is the one who had leaned back against Jesus at the supper and said, Lord, who's going to betray me? When Peter saw him, he asked, Lord, what about him? Peter, you are doing so well. Jesus answered, if I want him to remain alive until I return, what is that to you? You must follow me. Because of this, the rumor spread among the believers that this disciple would not die. But Jesus did not say he would not die. He only said, if I want him to remain alive until I return, what is that to you? I want to close this worship team if you come back up. I'd appreciate it. What is that to you? This is something else that causes me to blow it in my walk with the Lord, overpromise, underdeliver. And then that trips me up in other ways. It's when I start focusing on the walk of other Christians. And I try to follow Jesus' ways. I try to figure out how they should be following Jesus. As a minister, sometimes I'm dealing with a married couple, and I find that the root problem of their marriage Is it the husband is trying to follow Jesus on the wife's behalf? The wife is trying to follow Jesus on the husband's behalf. What I mean is, they should know the Bible verses that apply to the other person. Here's how you're supposed to be a wife. That's what the Bible says. You know your marriage will be a lot healthier if you try to be the husband the Bible says you should be. And you be the wife the Bible says you should be. If you both do that, it's not going to work out. You try to do it for the other person, it's not going to work. You can't follow Jesus on behalf of someone else. Introverts, don't tell the extroverts to quiet down. Extroverts, don't tell the introverts to liven up. What is that to you? Follow Jesus yourself, who he has made you to be. Prophets, don't tell the administrators to stop being so detail-oriented. So rule-focused. Administrators, stop telling the prophets not to be so ditzy. What is that to you? You follow Jesus with the gifts that he has given you. We always know how someone else should be doing it, especially when we're not doing it ourselves. In my life, when I find that my attention is being drawn to someone else and what they're not doing, or what they're doing they shouldn't be doing, almost always, and this is as a pastor, it's my job to exhort and rebuke and correct with all authority. That is in my job description. When I find I'm focusing on someone else and their walk more than on my walk, almost always the right thing to do is say, Lord, what are you trying to teach me? And what should I do now? That person is responsible to you. They will stand before you and they'll give an account for their life. I will stand before you and give an account for my life and what I do. So just tell me what I should do now, and I'll do that, and that'll be enough. Tonight, Peter denied Jesus 3 times. And we look, and we're like, how could you do that? And that's because we fail to actually engage with the text. We've all done that. We've all failed to make Jesus central publicly when we pray. And I don't mean being obnoxious. I mean just being bold and confident, living as though the gospel is true. Often we do it for reasons similar to those that seem likely to be Peter's inner motivations in this story. Tonight, if that's you, I give you the same invitation Jesus does. Repent. Come back. Undo what you have done. Publicly confess your love for him and resolve to do so in the future. And receive his invitation to follow me. He's not done with you. Now, you might be here tonight. You're not yet a follower of Christ. And I'm so glad you've chosen to invest your Wednesday in grace. Thank you. Tonight, I want you to recognize the kind of Jesus that I'm inviting you to follow. An exceptionally gracious, generous, and kind man who knows the darkest depths of your soul and loves you regardless. I want to tell you the best deal you can make in this life is to embrace him as your shepherd. Embrace him as your Lord. Embrace him as your Savior. And pledge to follow him all the days of your life with his help. Lead us all in prayer right now. If you would like to become Christian tonight, I'll give you a chance to do that in prayer, but my main prayer will be for those who want to renew their public witness to Christ and their witness. Lord, tonight I thank you that you are the same one who reached out to Peter in his distress and loved him enough to push through his pain and lead him on the process of restoration. God, often in my life, your process of healing hurts. I have to do things that humble me. I have to walk through a season where I wonder if you're really going to pull through for me. And you always do. God, tonight, for those here, as I spoke, you drew to their mind specific instances where they let something slide they could have graciously and lovingly stood up on. They failed to speak up. When they had the right words, but they just convinced themselves it wasn't the right time. God, you do something else. They just know, like Peter, they missed your leading. God, first, I know you forgive them. I pray that they would experience your tangible forgiveness tonight. Guilt be gone, shame be cast down. Let love prevail and be sensed. God, more than forgiveness, I pray for grace. You would not just wipe the past clean, but you would lay foundations for the future. You would do for us all what we cannot do for ourselves. And God, I pray specifically for everyone here who feels like they've whiffed the ball. It totally blew the shot. God, give them an opportunity tomorrow, maybe even tonight, to go back to their door. Before the sun sets again, give them a chance, like Peter, to confess their love for you. Finally, if you're here tonight, you would not have called yourself a Christian when you walked in. The Lord touched your heart, and you're ready to begin following the Jesus who ministered so kindly to Peter and will minister so kindly to you. Would you just indicate that by slipping your hand up? Everyone else's eyes are closed, their heads are bowed. It's a very private moment in public space. If you'd like me to just welcome you to the kingdom, slip your hand. All right, very good. Assuming either everyone's already a believer or you're just not ready for that moment yet, which is fine. The Bible says, Jesus himself says, count the cost. Don't convert hastily, because then you will lose your faith hastily. Think it through and achieve conviction. If that's you, I would love to talk to you after the meeting. Now, what we're going to do is move into another time of worship, singing praise to the God of second chances. Would you stand to your feet and join me in worship? If you need prayer for anything, some of the other leaders of the house will be in the corners of the room, available to pray with you.